Hello and welcome to this edition of Own the Journey, where we get to interview amazing people from around the world and share their wisdom with you. Today we have an amazing conversation that we're going to have with Luke Phelps, who's the co-founder and CEO of Vroom Solar and the co-founder of PV Pellet. So for those that don't know a little bit about your history, tell us how you got started and how you're doing so many cool things.
I'll try to give you the condensed version. I've always been an entrepreneur. I grew up on a farm in Northeast Missouri. So as a farmer, business is just kind of beat into you from childhood. Went to school in Springfield, and while I was in school, I was actually a general contractor building houses in Nixa, Willard, and a few other locations in this area while I was attending school. From there, I sold my last spec house, moved back to Kirksville to help with the family farm, worked at the USDA office some, started a Phelps Farm Service, which was an ag application and seed business. Was growing that like crazy, but starting to have some health issues, and family was growing several different issues. I was approached to be bought out of that, so I decided to take the opportunity. From there, I took some proceeds, started playing with solar, and put solar on our own house, some friend's house, my father's house, and grew into a company we named Red Barn Solar. Red Barn Solar, we started following the same track. We did lots of different installs all over Northeast Missouri with ag customers. Your chicken facilities, hog facilities, dairy facilities were our main customers, and we had tons of those. We were taking electric bills from $2,000 a month to $30 a month with the solar systems, and those systems were paying for themselves in a year or two.
That's unbelievable.
So continue to grow that company, and during the time in the solar industry, since it's still a new industry, there's a lot of opportunity in the industry as well. So found two different patented opportunities in the solar industry. I developed one, PV Pellet, and the other one, Vroom Solar, that I'm more a part of today. PV Pellet is a reusable pallet system for solar modules, and just fits the industry so well. And I actually stole the idea from the ag industry. We had a product called the Super Seed Box in the ag industry that just revolutionized the ag industry. And I took that same concept and applied it to the solar industry, and it's been growing like crazy. We're now selling pallets internationally in Europe and several different other countries. And that company is doing great. We actually have partnerships with non-solar industries needing the crate replacement for four-wheelers, just pieces of glass, windows, doors, all these different things that fit in the crate that we created. And it's very economical once you break down the ROI. That's another story, but Vroom Solar is the company that it's really dear to my heart, not only because of the potential of the product, but because of the ability to help people with the product too, taking solar and breaking it down to a product that is simple for anyone to understand. And Vroom Solar, in essence, is a no battery control center that allows plug and play, point it at the sun, flip it on, and you have power to power any of your everyday devices that you need power for. Huge in third world countries that have no grid or very poor grid access. It puts it at a cost point that is very affordable, and it just simplifies the entire process and still gives it a very long life, because the solar panels themselves are extremely durable and the control center is very durable. It's always the weakness is held in the batteries and the programming and monitoring of that battery. And I know that was a lot, but that's where I am today with Vroom Solar.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you've got this serial entrepreneurship going on. So let's rewind just a little bit. I mean, going through college, working your way through college, doing some of those. So for those of our viewers that are doing that and struggling through, I mean, it is hard work to just fundamentally work your way through college and work in a job, let alone building a business. Talk to us a little bit about how you managed all of that.
Well, first of all, I would not recommend it to anyone. It's good. You should work while you're going through college. I think it develops a good work ethic along with the academics. I think when you can blend those things together, it makes a person that's unstoppable. And so I think that's very important to have that work ethic. And the academics, sometimes we're weak in one or not the other, but finding that balance with employees or with yourself is a good place to find.
So would you say that it helped you really mature when you needed it? It helped you to mature the discipline required in life to be successful? Is that fair to say?
It is fair to say. Definitely, I would agree with that. I was undergoing pressure that your normal college student probably wouldn't undergo. I was trying to please customers and meet deadlines with work and with school, and then also managing cash flow. And that's something that, it's good to do in both. So
that's awesome. Okay, so then you decided to come back and get involved with family farm. That's not easy. Family businesses are never easy, having been there. There's interesting dynamics and emotions and all the things associated with that. Even with the best of relationships, it's still challenging. How was that for you all?
So it definitely was challenging. I have an incredible father, though. We all have our weaknesses, but you just figure out how to work with them and lean on each other's strengths. It was a good training ground for me to go back to my roots and deal with a lot of old issues to personally just kind of work through those and face those head on, which were really good for my personal growth. And through that, working in the farm, it's when I got back into running the farm business and was able to still make something my own, be a part of the family farm, but slowly develop my own business through that as well. And that was very rewarding. And I found as I did that, my father's respect went up for me a lot, seeing that, he was like pushing your bird out of the nest kind of thing. It was that same feeling all over again. We never really got that when I left for college, but he definitely, I think, took a lot of pride whenever he saw the difference and impact I was making in the ag industry and in the counties around.
Yeah, that's amazing. What advice would you give to somebody who has the situation where they would go away and then is coming back to work with a parent?
Come back humbly. So don't come back as a know-it-all, for sure.
I think that's good advice.
Realize your parents have walked a few more miles than you have. They don't have everything figured out either or perfect, but humility is definitely, I think, the thing that we gotta approach our parents with, or anyone who's farther ahead than we are. So
I want to brag just a little bit from our region, because I believe that there's something special about the Midwest work ethic, and it sounds like that farm. I grew up in a farm community. I mean, you learn how to work, and I think that serves us well. Was that the case for you? I mean, in what you did and how you continue to have to work and building these businesses?
Definitely. My father, on top of running the farm, ran a commercial fencing business through the farm. And so we were building commercial fences. So after school, we didn't have time for homework. We were out clipping fence or pulling barbed wire or digging holes for fence posts. Like, that was what we did. We just knew that was our time as a family. It was to help with the family business and farm too. But
I'm sure that's paid big dividends in the future. That's amazing. Okay, so shifting gears just a little bit, as you started to get into the solar arena, which is kind of an emerging technology, quite the opposite of farming. One, how did you find it, and then what was it that pulled you in?
Oh man, as a farmer, we all want independence. Farmers like to be independent and produce their own stuff and sell it, and they're pretty much their own silo, if you will. And solar was just a very neat technology. I love emerging technology. It's in my blood. And just starting to review it, look at it, I was one of the earliest adopters in probably the area to solar. And the fact that there's no moving parts and how it can produce power to just produce that independent reliability was huge. We were also paying quite a bit higher than average for the state on our kilowatt charge. So it kind of pushed me that direction further, knowing that we were paying $300 to $400 a month on our electric bill at our house. And I was like, man, I've got some cash now from selling this business. What can I do with it to give a good ROI? And looking at it through installing it myself, the ROI was going to be a couple of years versus 10 to 15 if you go through an installer in the local, through national network or any other source.
That's amazing. And I think that what you're talking about, I mean, when you have so many farmers who are fighting for that independence and having a hard time competing with the big farms in the commercial environments, giving them that is somewhat of a gift. I mean, it gives them a little bit more control.
Yeah, and it was great. The USDA, a little bit of time I spent at the USDA taught me a lot about the programs they had. So we were able to take and apply for USDA grants for renewable energy on those hog farms and dairy farms. And that was a 25% coverage.
Wow.
So it'd pay 25% of the cost of the solar. They'd get the tax credits, 30% federal tax credits, and they could depreciate out the rest like a piece of equipment. And so once you factored in all those items, we could get these solar systems for a very affordable cost to them. The USDA was very willing to work with us. 99% of our applications got approved for that REAP program, was the name of the program. And they were just so thankful. It's nice to be a part of a business where your customers are thankful at the end of the day, because a lot of them depend on that income, and they own these barns that are extremely expensive to own, millions of dollars to build one. And they're paying several $1,000s a month just in electric bills. And whenever they can see that couple of $1,000s go to their personal pocketbooks versus to a utility company, it's a big win for them.
Yeah, that's amazing. So on a broader scale, if a business is considering solar, when is it the right thing? When is it the wrong thing? I know the cost of power, as you implied, can have a big impact on that, but
so I think solar is going to keep growing. It's a really cool technology. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that aren't doing the market and the business any favors. And what I mean by that is it's almost the used car mentality. When cars first came out, the used car salesman persona, or whatever you want to call it, was you didn't want to be a used car salesman. And now that's kind of happening to the solar industry because of the new technology, and there's a lot of growth potential, and people are taking advantage of it. And we want to make sure that people aren't getting taken advantage of. So number one, make sure you find a good installer that you can trust, who knows the product, knows what they're doing, and can install it well, and is going to be there for the long haul to make sure that they can come and service it for you too. That's number one. And then make sure you're really watching the numbers. There's a lot of crafty number play on the invoices, so just make sure you're doing your math. I think it fits a lot of businesses. Not every business is a good fit. Make sure that it's going to be a business that you own for 3 to 5 years would probably be another thing I would tell business owners before they enter into solar. Double check with your local electric companies to see if there's any local incentives. Make sure you understand the federal tax credits, that it's a credit, not a cash back program. So you have to be producing revenue to get that credit back. So a few of those things, and make sure that you've got a good space that's not a sore thumb for your neighbors, that type of thing. Flat roofs are great. If you've got a business with a flat roof, pole barn, there's lots of different situations that solar is a great fit. The other thing to watch out for too, if you're a business with high usage, is demand charges. So solar is not a huge help with demand charges. If you have a lot of equipment engaging at the same time, they're going to get demand charges on that. And solar is a consistent output, and it won't help with those demand charges when you have those. So really make sure you have a good consultant, making sure they understand your full electric bill, your situation, your location, and doing all the math correctly. And there's a lot of government resources too that are non-for-profit. You can double check those too to make sure that you're getting accurate information your salesman.
So beyond just checking references, how would you recommend identifying an organization, a company that knows what they're doing and is doing things right versus somebody who maybe is the used car salesman?
For me, my approach would be find someone who is more service-oriented than sales-oriented. That's probably, sales are good, and you got to have that to keep businesses, but you want to make sure they have the service aspect to back it up. A lot of companies are just sales, and they're selling the product but hiring other companies to do the service. And you got to be careful of that too, because I think it can come back to bite you, because one company is actually installing it for you, has nothing to do with you, but the other company that's selling has no idea how to fix it. So when you call in to get it repaired, you're like, oh,
Major challenges.
yeah. So you got to have connect between the service and the sales. Make sure you got a company that has both.
That makes a lot of sense. That's great advice. So from there, you decided to get into a startup, a couple of the startups, I guess, but specifically with Vroom Solar. Talk to us about what made you think of this idea to get it going. Where are you guys at? What's next on the roadmap?
So grid-tied solar is one area. That's a fairly simple solar process. Your grid-tied solar works with your meter, with your utility company. Your utility lines are your battery system for your solar system. So you're producing inconsistent power and providing consistent power to your business or hog facility, whatever the solar is going on. Off-grid was a whole nother ball of wax. Off-grid solar is very complicated. It's a lot of calculation. You got to know everything you're plugging into it, how much power it's going to require. It's a lifestyle change, and it's also a huge cost. So if you get into a homeowner, they're like, man, I want solar, but I want it to be off-grid or have the capabilities of going off-grid, and you're like, okay, the number I gave to you, times it by 3, and that's what your cost is going to be for an off-grid solar system. So it just wasn't practical. I had a few customers that went that route, but they've had issues with the battery systems. They're very finicky, even with the newer lithium technology. There's just so many options that it gets complicated. And not only that, you add a lot more hardware, a lot more equipment, because you got equipment to charge and regulate the battery, discharge the battery, manage the solar system, and then brains to make them all work together. And so just seeing all this, I was like, there has to be a better way to simplify this whole process. And I was like, what's the real reason for wanting off-grid solar? And security, and be able to just provide yourself some backup if you needed it, and just making sure that it's there. And so started working on Vroom Solar with it, which is a very unique control center. No batteries required to operate. All it takes is sunlight, and you just have to have the panels plugged in the side, which we are going to be releasing a video soon just showing how quick it installs. We install 4 panels and the control center in 30 seconds, flip it on and start powering things. And so we just wanted to make it that simple. One of the things, I might need to work on slogans, but one of the things we're telling people is this is going to be as simple as changing your batteries and your fire alarms. It's just literally screw it to the wall, plug it in, and flip it on. And all the LED lights on the front just tell you exactly what it's doing. So it shows you how much power it has, which outlets are open and operating, and then you can provide power to refrigerators, to battery chargers, to whatever you need, just plugging it in based on the load management system that we built into this control center.
So how did you guys overcome the need for the batteries to regulate everything? That had to be quite the trick.
So yeah, it was a process. I've been working on Vroom Solar for 3 years. Actually, I have some old videos of me just buying some off-the-shelf battery inverters, plugging solar panels into the side of it, and seeing if it would work, realizing the solar panels themselves are technically a battery. People don't realize that, but a solar panel is just collecting stored sunlight. And so it's actually solar module is the technical term for a solar panel. And the module, meaning battery, it's just stored energy. So I was like, why are we taking a battery, connecting it to another battery to charge batteries? Like it seems like we should be able to shorten this process. And so I've been playing with battery inverters, and from the solar installs with microinverters and string inverters, I kind of blended them all together to come up with what we have today. All your inverters that you buy for your house, they have to mirror the sine wave that it produces on the grid in order for safety reasons, so that your system's not producing power when the grid goes down, so your servicemen can work on it. Our system doesn't have that requirement because it doesn't need the grid to operate, so that simplified it. Not having the battery systems in it and lots of different things, and then figuring out how to make this user-friendly, because you have cloudy days, you have morning and evening, so you have droops in the sun, droops in power, and we were trying to, okay, how do we do this? And that's when the 4 load management was born. We decided that, okay, as long as people can have a primary outlet that they know has got power most of the time, and then add extra outlets to power other things that need a power occasionally, it makes it simple for them to understand, and then they can manage how they plug in their devices through that power management system and not need the battery at all. And if you want a battery, you can still plug a battery source in there, charge it up, and then use that battery for the evening time hours.
Right. Oh, that's amazing. Well, congratulations on creating such a cool product. That sounds like it's going to be awesome. And I heard you say refrigerator. So this isn't just like a small thing. I mean, you can run refrigerators, you can charge vehicles. So tell us about that.
So we are charging, I actually drive a Rivian. We've been charging my Rivian with it. Ford Lightning, you can run a welder off of it. So it's up to 3,000 watts. We actually can put almost 5,000 watts of solar input, but the max AC output is 3,000 watts. Your average Milwaukee battery charger is 200 watts, so you can do the math. You can run, 10 to 12 Milwaukee battery chargers at peak production during the day, and in the morning, whenever your production isn't full, you can still run 2 to 4 battery chargers. So with the contractor on the go, they can have 8 battery chargers plugged into this thing, and it'll naturally go from one battery charger to the next, keeping those batteries topped off.
That's awesome. And so you can literally like stand up a job site. You don't need to have power on site to get going.
Correct, and most of your contractor tools are battery powered now.
Yeah.
They're going away from air compressor tools and corded tools. Everything has its own battery source. So you just need a bunch of battery chargers plugged in, and as that primary outlet is charged up, it'll move to the secondary outlet, third, fourth, and it's neat how it works that way.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And so, yeah, I would imagine then, based on that, one of your primary target customers is contractors who are on the go, standing up buildings for the first time.
Correct. So yeah, that's contractors, race car enthusiasts, race car tracks, a lot of those, and then contractors setting up portable offices. Those are some of our primary customers that are already showing tons of interest in the product. But then even getting into natural disasters for powering after natural disaster, when the grid is gone and gas stations are off, we can actually provide power in those situations too, or in third world countries that have no grid, or unstable grids that either are very expensive to connect to or just have power occasionally.
So have you, just kind of a side note, have you talked with Convoy of Hope about working with them potentially to help?
I just had a meeting with them all morning this morning.
Really?
Meeting with their director of ag and director of natural disaster, vice president of natural disaster, and they're extremely interested in partnering with us and helping roll out our product all over the world.
Oh, that just sounds absolutely amazing. So for your average camper on the go, just like to get off the grid and go down to the lake and spend a little bit of time, does this fit for that person? Or
probably not a great fit. It would work in some situations, but not what we're going to recommend for a fit. It's probably still more as that power for charging battery tools is going to be the better fit. We're working on version 2. I won't go into the details. That will probably fit those situations better. But our main motto is sun direct first. That is, we are going to provide sun direct power first, because not only is it more sustainable for you, it also is more efficient, that we have found too, because efficiency is everything whenever you're managing your power. So when you're converting solar to charge a battery, you're actually losing 10 to 30% of that power production to charge that battery.
Okay.
So if you have a 100 kilowatt battery, it's going to take 130 kilowatts to charge that battery system. And then discharging it, you're going to lose another 5 to 10%, converting that DC power to an AC power source. And so whenever we're going direct from the solar to the AC, it actually increases the efficiency quite a bit. And that's been turning heads of government personnel and other things too. So
that's awesome. So are there incentives available for the contractors and those that want to utilize this technology?
there are. So being that this is a full-on solar kit, you should be able to reap that 30% federal tax credit, which has been extended to 2027. I can't remember the exact dates. It's been extended a while, another 3 to 5 years anyways. So this kit will get you that 30% tax credit, take it into your CPA, and she can apply that CPA, she or he can apply that tax credit correctly.
Cool, that's amazing. Now shifting gears a little bit to PV pallet. So obviously you said that it's focused on the panels themselves, the modules, and getting those shipped as they're supposed to. Then you mentioned things like four-wheelers and other things. But talk to us about how that's going to kind of revolutionize how we maybe ship and receive some.
So you've all probably seen the reusable plastic standard size bin. This is and the standard size pallet. There's a lot of loads that are not standard size. We actually created a crate that is very collapsible so that whenever you ship it out, it's a 26 fit in the load going to the field, and you can fit like 120. It's a 5-to-1 ratio. So you can collapse them down and fit a ton for the return, which is crucial for that that return use and getting the ROI that you need on the pallet. It's also a lot stronger, and we can produce them a lot faster than wood. We can produce anywhere from 250 to 500 pallets per day.
Wow.
With one press. And so it's a really neat process, and not only that, the pallets are made fully out of recycled plastic. So we're actually helping capture HDPE. So from your cities, when you're recycling milk jugs, laundry detergent bottles, and some of those, that's the type of plastic we're actually using in our pallet to grind up and put into our pallets. And at end of life, use them 20, 25 times. We'll actually pay a core value to get them back, recycle them again, and make them into a pallet over and over again. Wow. So it's a very sustainable process. Fits the solar industry great, and other industries are really starting to see the value of it too. The automotive industry, the recreational four-wheelers, yeah. And I forget, we're talking to so many companies now, I can't keep them all straight.
Yeah, I totally understand.
That's good.
Well, it sounds like, at the end of the day, sustainability is kind of a big area of focus, helping not just, some of those industries, but you're really trying to push it into new industries where it's not natural.
Yes. Yeah, so, and unfortunately, solar not being in a lot of other industries already had reusable packaging they were using, and they understood it instantly. There's still an education process happening in the solar industry because it was growing so fast they didn't have time to build in returnable package systems into their logistics. So it was like they wanted one use and done. But the other issue they're running into, and what PV Pallet is solving, is we were getting a 5 to 7% breakage rate of the solar modules through shipping. So that means every 5 of every 100 panels shipped, they were scrapped and had to be recycled. And with PV Pallet, we've cut that down almost 97%.
Wow.
With our test pilots that we've done with different companies. So
better solution altogether. Yeah, that's amazing.
So, and it was all stolen from the ag industry. Don't tell the ag industry.
Yeah, very good. All right, well, Luke, one of my favorite questions to ask people as we wrap up is through all the things that you've done, what's some of the best advice that you've heard that you would want to pay forward?
Only one piece.
Yeah.
No. I would say just make sure business is fun, but it's not what life is all about. So I would always tell people, make sure your focus at the end of the day is correct. Your priorities on people, on family, growing yourself personally is far more important at the end of the day than what you've accomplished in a business. And I love business as much as the next person. It energizes me. I love it, but I know someday I want to hear from my kids that they had a good father. Yeah. Not someone who is gone all the time doing business and just providing money. That's only goes so far.
Agreed. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, let me raise a glass to you and say congratulations for owning your journey.
Thanks. Cheers. Appreciate it, Tom.